Chapter 16. Jake. My wolf nose told me a story. The stench of burning wood was everywhere, but I could still smell blood. Something had sprayed blood over a wide area. A bear. I smelled the powerful scent of a bear. I sniffed the ground again. Human. 2 different humans. And something else. A strange alien smell. A smell like nothing I could imagine. Until I looked at the tracks. Sharp hoof marks. Axe. Axe had been here. 2 humans. One wearing shoes. One barefoot. A bear. Axe. Blood. A fire. Still smoldering. "What do you make of it?" I asked Marco. The barefoot person had to be Rachel. So was the bear. It had to be her. There are no grizzlies in this forest. And the blood, that's hers too. Or the bear's anyway. She was hurt bad. I swallowed anger and fear. I had to stay focused. "What can hurt a grizzly?" I asked, knowing the answer. "A man with a gun," Marco said. "Another grizzly. Or some animal that isn't from Earth. No Earth animal can mess with a grizzly bear." "It was that thing," I said. Tobias swooped down low and slow. "Bear tracks head north. I see tracks, but they're weird. Hind legs only. Like the bear was walking erect. And blood." "So Rachel is in Bearmorph, tangled with the dust beast," I said. "She came out of it alive, but she couldn't use her front paws." "That's the way it looks," Tobias said. "The bear tracks stopped down by a stream, maybe 1,000 yards from here. After that, I don't see anything. She must have morphed back to human." "Which way does she go?" Marco asked. "Upstream? Downstream?" Tobias came to rest on a branch. "I don't know. I looked. I didn't see her. I should have gotten here sooner. I should have known when it let you 2 go that it was going after her." "Tobias, no one understands this monster. You couldn't have known what it would do. None of us could," I said. It sounded reasonable, but in my mind I was thinking that I should have known. I should have guessed. "What's Axe's story in all of this?" I asked. Blaming myself was not the point right now. Axe was coming to meet us. He sees the fire, goes to investigate it. Maybe then he sees Rachel? Or Rachel and Bearmorph? Were they both here at the same time? "I don't know," Marco said. "Maybe. Lots of Andalite tracks all together here. Look. They just stop, right here. No Andalite scent past this point. It's like he was just lifted up and carried away." Tobias said, "So he gets here, sees Rachel and the beast going at it. Axe is a brave guy. He jumps into it. Rachel gets away. She's bloody, but she gets away. And Axe? Why isn't he still here? Or else, why don't we see a separate set of Andalite tracks leaving? Or at least see his body?" No one said anything. We all feared the worst. I was remembering what that beast had done to Darlene's house and to the trees. Maybe it didn't leave bodies behind. Maybe there was no body left after it was done. "Andalites are tougher than they look," Tobias said. "I'm with Axe a lot out here in the forest. Don't write him off." "Yeah," I agreed, trying to sound hopeful. "We've been in Morph a long time. We need to use what time we have left to get to civilization and morph back. I have to at least check in with my folks, or they'll have cops come out looking for me." "We can't just stop looking," Marco said. "Tobias only has an hour of good light left. After that, there won't be anyone trying to find Rachel, or Axe." "I'll use that hour," Tobias said. He opened his wings and flapped wearily back into the sky. "We'll come back tonight," I told Marco. "Have dinner with your dad, and then we hook up at Cassie's barn." "Jake, what is going on?" Marco asked me as we trotted swiftly back toward the road. "Is this the Yeerks?" "Who else could it be?" I asked. "But look, if it's them, then they know who we are. I mean, this thing came right after me and Axe. It went after Rachel. It went after me and you. It knows who we are. So why don't the Yeerks just move in on us? Why not show up at our homes? That's the question, I agreed. We had reached the road. The bus would come by soon. It was time to demorph. That is exactly the question we need to answer. Yeah, that and the question of where Rachel is and why she doesn't go home. And one more question, I added as I felt my human body emerge from within the wolf. How do we stay alive? Chapter 17, Cassie. Radio Shack, August Woman, Godiva, The Gap, Mrs. Fields, Casual Corner, B. Dalton, Kenny Shoes, Banana Republic, Bright Lights, Color, Signs, the smell of cinnamon buns, the mall, yuck. And worse yet, the mall on a Saturday evening. It was crowded, it was loud, but the mall was the place to look for Rachel. Jake, Marco, Tobias, and Axe had all gone to the spot where the ice cream truck attack had taken place. Jake had asked me to look in all the other places she might have gone. He said I would know best where she hangs out. Maybe that was true, but it bothered me a little. It could be a little sexist on Jake's part, or maybe he was trying to protect me. Either way, it bothered me. I didn't want special treatment because I was a girl. Jake would never even think about something like that with Rachel. It bothered me for another reason too. It bothered me because a part of me was just a little relieved. I was safe in the mall. Who knew what Jake and the others were dealing with out in the forest? I told myself I wasn't glad to be safe. I told myself I was just doing what needed to be done. But the possibility that Jake was in danger while I was safe gnawed away at me. It's because you told Jake about the stupid dream, I realized. Now he thinks you're losing it. Not a surprise, is it? Tell a guy you're having nightmares where you face evil and choose who it kills, he's gonna maybe think you're losing it. Just the same, Jake was right. I knew the places Rachel might go. I had already checked out the gym where Rachel did gymnastics, and the frozen yogurt place where she always ordered key lime pie flavor. I checked school, just because that's where she would have caught the bus. And I had scoped out her house, even though her sister said she wasn't home, which left the mall. Wait, is that her? I muttered to myself. I stood up on tiptoes to see better. No, it was some other blonde girl. I am not a shopper. To me, shopping is something you do when you have to. For Rachel, it's an art form. If she wasn't at home, she should be here. Rachel? I called loudly to a girl passing by, but as soon as I did, I knew it wasn't her. Sorry, I thought I knew you. Then suddenly, someone I did know. Someone I definitely knew. Chapman. He appeared suddenly in front of me, carrying a shopping bag from one of the department stores, and heading toward the B. Dalton bookstore. Chapman! If this dust creature was linked to the Yerks, he would know. Chapman was our assistant principal at school. He was also one of the highest ranking controllers. The slug who lived inside his brain was an important Yerk. Chapman would know. Following him had to be more useful than just wandering around the mall. But how? Morphing in a crowded mall would be dangerous. So what? I reproached myself. So don't do something stupid just to prove you aren't scared, I argued with myself. While I was debating with myself, I fell into step a few yards behind Chapman. I had already made up my mind. I just had to decide how I was going to spy on him. Housefly. Yes, that was the thing. A quick morph, hook up onto Chapman, stay with him for as long as I could remain in morph. Chapman was in the bookstore, thumbing through magazines. How long would he stay in the bookstore? Long enough? Maybe. And where could I morph without being seen? I went back to the store. There was a storeroom with the door ajar. Inside the storeroom was a second door. A bathroom for the employees. Bingo. I glanced at Chapman. He had moved to the history section. What on earth did a controller want with history? I swallowed hard and slid into the storeroom, acting like I belonged, but also moving quickly. No one was around. I went into the tiny employee's bathroom and locked the door. I took off my shoes and outer clothing and stashed them in the trash under a lot of wadded up paper towels. I would have to come back for them later. And then I focused. It wasn't easy because my heart was pounding, and I really didn't like insect morphs much. I focused on the fly and prayed no one would break into the bathroom. I felt giddy. I wasn't afraid. Not too afraid, anyway. Even Rachel would have been impressed. I began to shrink. It's very weird when you morph into something tiny. 1 minute your head is like 4 feet above the floor, and then suddenly your head is only 2 feet above the floor. And 1 foot, 6 inches, 1 inch. It's like falling, and it seems like the floor is rushing up to slap you. I mean, that linoleum seemed to be alive, the way it swooped up at me. It was like being a skydiver spiraling down to earth. But there were other very disturbing things happening too. There's nothing human about a housefly. Everything has to change. Everything. My hands began to split open. 2 of my fingers grew out and became sharp claws. The other 2 fingers and my thumb blossomed open, splitting into thousands of tiny sticky hairs. It's the kind of thing that used to scare me to death when we first started morphing. Let me tell you, the worst horror movie you ever saw in your life is a joke compared to actually watching your own body turn into something else. Morphing is almost never pretty. The others all say I'm the best morpher, that I can make it look okay. But nothing can make a fly look okay. There are no Brad Pitt flies. Flies are ugly looking creatures. Nasty, ugly, gross, disgusting creatures. My legs were shriveling down and turning into fly legs. Sploop! 2 new legs exploded from my chest, just at the bottom of where my ribs had been. The legs shot out of me like huge black worms. They grew dagger-like hairs and formed joints and became as hard as plastic. And my face? Well, that was definitely unpleasant. My nose split open, forming 2 halves. Each half began sprouting long, sensitive hairs. My mouth and tongue melted together, then grew huge, forming a huge long tube with open, spinning, sucking hole at the end. My eyes seemed to shatter, like a mirror broke into 1,000 pieces. My vision was gone for a moment, and I was blind. And then it came back, but was so different I almost didn't realize it was sight at all. I had gone from human eye to compound eye, where once my vision was a single picture, now it was 1,000 bits. It was like watching TV with your nose right against the screen while you twist the color control knobs. The bits formed pictures, but the colors were all wrong. At last, I was done morphing. I was a fly. It is true, I guess, that I am a little faster at morphing than the others, even Axe. I know it's kind of a stupid thing to be proud of, but I am. I beat my powerful wings, let go of my grip on the tiny ridges in the linoleum, and escaped from the bathroom by zooming neatly between the crack of the door. Once out, I shot quickly up for altitude and safety, and headed for Chapman. Chapter 18. Axe. The dust beast carried me up and up. I could feel gravity tugging at me. I could feel momentum as we moved faster and faster. I could see nothing. I could only hear a swirling sound. We began to slow down. Slower, slower, stop. The dust beast hovered. How high up were we? Where were we? Then a gap opened in the howling wall of dust that enveloped me. I saw the earth below, but not from orbit. We were still in the atmosphere. That surprised me. What I saw next did not. It was not a large ship by most standards. It was far smaller than an Andalite dome ship. Far smaller than a Yerk mothership. It was all black with 2 wings like battle axe, and a long, sharp, diamond-shaped battle bridge mounted at the front. I knew the ship. It was the Blade Ship, the private command ship of Visser 3. It had dropped its stealth cloak for just a few moments. Silently, a hole appeared in the top of the battle bridge. The dust beast swirled through. Suddenly I was falling. Slam! I hit a hard surface. My hooves scrabbled to stand up, but I was down on my side. The dust beast had dropped me on a polished metallic floor. I stood up. The dust beasts hovered above me. And all around me, on all sides, stood Hork-Bajir warriors, each with a Draken beam leveled and ready to fire. There must have been 10 of them. 2 or 3 of them would have been plenty. Once, the Hork-Bajir were a decent, peaceful race. They were enslaved by the Yeerks. Hork-Bajir are incredibly dangerous and very powerful. They stand on 2 legs, balanced by a tail. Each leg ends in a foot, like an earth bird of prey. They have 2 arms. There are curved blades at their knees, at their elbows, at their wrists. Blades similar to my own tail blade. Atop their snake-like heads are 2 more blades, swept forward, and their tails end in a long, sharp spike. They are not a species you want to start a fight with, which may be why they are such a peaceful, even poetic species. They had no one to fear, until the Yeerks began to make them into controllers. Now, there are no longer any free Hork-Bajir. All are slaves of the Yeerks. All are controllers with a living Yeerk inside their brains. 2 or 3 would have been more than enough to deal with me. Having 10 there was a compliment. Well, well, a voice in my head. So we have our first captive. It was him, as I had known it would be, Visser III, third most powerful of all the Yeerk warlords, the leader of the Yeerk invasion of Earth. An abomination. Visser III is unique in all of the galaxy, the one and only Andalite controller. He alone, of all Yeerks, has managed to take and enslave an Andalite body. The sight of him filled me with loathing. My brother's killer. The creature I knew I had to destroy. If I didn't, I would never have the honor of being a true warrior. I had faced him before, but always with my human friends beside me. To have attacked the Visser then would have meant risking them. But now, I didn't have that excuse. Visser III was before me, my brother's killer. Visser III focused his main eyes on me. His stalk eyes watched the dust beast as it hovered uneasily above our heads. I am ashamed to confess it, but I felt terror in his presence. Evil radiated from him, and power, a great and frightening power. You are not even a full-grown Andalite, Visser III sneered. My Valik brings me a child? Valik, I said. Yes, I named it myself. In the Yeerk language, it means pet. It's a rare life form from right here in this solar system. The big gas giant, the one with the very prominent rings. Saturn. That's what the humans called it. But I said nothing to the Visser. Answering might have revealed that I was in contact with humans. Visser III considered me. So you are an Andalite after all. Some of my advisors have been suggesting you terrorists were human, not Andalite. But here we have a prime Andalite specimen. The Yeerks believed the Animorphs were a group of Andalites who had survived the battle in orbit and made it to Earth. It was important for them to go on believing that. Yeerk filth! I cried suddenly. My uncles will destroy you. Visser III laughed. You and your uncles have caused me some annoyance, it is true. You destroyed the truck ship we used to gather oxygen and water. That was very unfortunate. And you destroyed our ground-based Cadrona. That was even more unfortunate. He stepped closer, showing his complete confidence, showing me that he did not fear me. For that, I will give you a very long, very, very long, very slow death, Andalite. I wanted to strike at him. My brother, Prince Alfangor, he would have had the courage. But I did not. The Hork-Bajir have disintegrated me before I could twitch my tail. And the awful force of the Yeerk Visser's power held me mesmerized. Yes, you led me a chase, you Andalite bandits, Visser III said. But my Valik will capture you one by one and bring you to me. If I lacked the courage to attack and die, I could at least try to learn more. If I lived, if I escaped somehow by some miracle. How do you make a controller out of something made of dust? Where did you place your filthy slug body? Oh, the Valik is not one of us, Visser 3 said. It's not a controller. He's not really he. There's no intelligence there, or at least not much. Fascinating life form, really. Unlike anything we've ever found before. It spreads through the atmosphere as a dust. Each particle can sense life form energy. Any life form. When one particle senses prey, the millions of particles come together to attack the life form and chew it into shreds. The energy of each shredded bit is then absorbed by the particles themselves. Visser 3 laughed again, soundless but vile in my mind. We lost a lot of soldiers before we figured the creature out. Oh yes, it was chewing up Hork-Bajir and Taxons at a startling rate. But then we realized something. It could be altered. We could use the thing. I could program it to serve me. I nodded, understanding the truth. You changed it to detect only the energy of morphing. Very good. But you Andalites have always been clever when it comes to science. Yes, now it detects only the specific type of energy released during morphing. But it cannot feed on that energy. Oh, no. I didn't want it to shred you Andalites. I didn't want it to eat you. I wanted to have you here with me. So I programmed my Valik to eat only the energy we feed it from the engines of this ship. Clever, isn't it? The Valik senses morphing, attacks, but brings the morpher to me in order to get its true food. Only a Yeerk would think it's clever to force mutation on another life form, I said, as contemptuously as I could. Should I strike? Could I strike? Was I fast enough? Visser 3 nodded. Yes. We lowly Yeerks know how superior you Andalites are. Holier than thou. The meddling moralists of the galaxy. The glorious, self-righteous Andalite princess, saving the galaxy from the despised Yeerks. Well, here you are, Andalite child. And soon the rest of your group of bandits will be here as well. How many of you are there, altogether? I tell you nothing, I said. It doesn't matter, Visser 3 said with cold disdain. The Valik will never tire. I'll send it back, and it will go on hunting. Your friends will be clever. Sometimes they will escape for a while. But sooner or later, my Valik will hunt them down, and, one by one, bring them to me. He jerked his hand in a signal to his soldiers. Throw him in the cage. Watch him. If he escapes, each of you will die. Oh, and have the Valik fed, then release it. Let it go find me more Andalites. I wouldn't want our young Andalite to be lonely. The Hork-Bajir grabbed me roughly. Visser 3 turned his back and walked away. I had not struck. I had been face to face with my brother's killer, and I had let him walk away.